We are back for another live episode of the Eric Crocker Show. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back. And of course, we're getting into all things pertaining to your San Francisco 49ers, including really just big loss 33-19 fall to the Baltimore Ravens. We're going to discuss all the things that go into that. We'll also talk about Kyle Shanahan and his offense, an inability to kind of come from behind and why that may be the case. Brock Purdy, 4 interceptions. Let's kind of talk about the interceptions, why they may or may not have happened. I see some blame going on this guy or that guy or this happened, but we're going to get into that. And then also Brock Purdy's MVP odds and Christian McCaffrey, his role on the 49ers. We're going to discuss all that and more. But first, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and let you know that this show is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Download the app or go to underdogfantasy.com. And they will double your initial deposit up to $100 when you use promo code Crocky. Do that to get in on all the action on all these football and basketball games every day. All right, let's get into it, man. First of all, Merry Christmas to everyone. Got the new year coming up. I hope everybody is, I know everybody does the New Year's resolutions. New year, new me. So whatever your new year goals are, I hope that you achieve them. And I think it starts right now. It starts right now. All right. So 49ers, they probably have a New Year resolution to not get their butts kicked the way that they just did by the Baltimore Ravens. And, I do have some initial thoughts. I don't even think it's so much about confidence or being cocky, because I'm seeing a lot of those messages on Locked On 49ers. And of course, if you don't know, Locked On 49ers, myself, Brian Peacock, we come at you 5 days a week. And I got Sip to Tally in the chat. Hey man, I'm gonna send you the film so you can come on live. All right. But the one thing I feel right away, and 49 fans may or may not do this as well, but the Ravens felt disrespected. Their fan base. The Ravens fan base felt very disrespected by myself, even though I felt like I tried to stay, like, give them their respect. Like, I did not think that they were 11-3 heading into that game for no reason. Like, that is a good football team. I have talked about how I felt like that defense, what we knew, you are fast and you are physical, right? I came on here like, oh, that defense, man, they are moving around. They're hitting hard. 49 fans like, oh man, we got the Avengers. Like, we're cool. And typically you're cool. Typically 49ers, you have enough players to overcome, another terrific roster. Even you go back to the 49ers' 3 losses. Nothing about their losses were that the other team was just better than them, right? Like the first one, Cleveland Browns. I don't think at the time you felt like, man, Cleveland Browns just a much better team than the 49ers. Nobody really thought that, right? But they did some things. You beat them in. You could chalk it up to bad weather. Some things didn't go your way. Missed a field goal. All right, next week you play Minnesota Vikings. It did not feel like the Minnesota Vikings were a better team. They didn't have Justin Jefferson, but you lost, and you knew like, oh, we didn't play our best ball. And then in the last loss, the Cincinnati Bengals. Even in that game, you did not feel like the Cincinnati Bengals were a better team. It was just 49. They didn't come out. They didn't play their game. You don't have Trent. You don't have Debo. This was the first game. While even though I did not head into the game thinking that the Baltimore Ravens had a better team than the 49ers, but you definitely knew they were damn good. And the Ravens felt like, and their fans, Ravens flock, felt they were equal to the 49ers. The 49 fans kind of shrugged it off a little bit, like, nah, man. I'm like, they're good. And Lamar Jackson, I think, was definitely the equalizer in this game. In Sip Tally talked about it, Coach Evans. You take him off the team, it looks drastically different. Even if you put a just normal starting quarterback, I still think it looks drastically different, but he carried this team to kind of a victory, and obviously the defense had a big hand in that with how they stifled the 49ers offense throughout the game. So we're going to kind of get into that and break down all those things. All right, I wanted to start off with what we knew about them. We knew that 49ers could not turn the ball over a lot. Like, that's just in any game. And I think more so for the 49ers because, man, this is a terrific team. This is a terrific roster. And when people go out there and they call Brock Purdy a game manager, and I know a lot of people, they look at that or they hear that and they're like, oh, this is terrible to be calling this guy a game manager, blah, blah, blah. But, and it's not his fault because maybe the team is so good. And that's what my guy Will Blackman was saying, right? Like when I asked Will Blackman, I'm like, man, what is game manager to you? And he's like, well, A game manager is someone who is on a team where everything is so great around them. The main job is just to not mess it up. And I think that Brock has done a terrific job of being even a little bit more than just somebody that's not messing up. He's really contributing to a lot of wins. But you see in this game where start to get a little beside himself, and we're going to talk about Brock in a minute. But to me, the first thing was you can't turn the ball over. Like you just can't against this team. There's some teams you can get away with it. Some teams you can turn over. I know Brock threw a pick six against Seattle Seahawks, but it just probably was never going to matter, right? But in this game, you just could not turn the ball over because they're just too good on offense and defense. They can be. All right. And I think we saw that. We knew that they had to be carried by Lamar Jackson. And the defense, obviously, they did a terrific job getting turnovers. And then Lamar Jackson capitalizing on a lot of that. And really, I feel like because 3 of the turnovers by the 49ers were in the first half, I don't think the Ravens like really capitalized on just how many times the 49ers turned the ball over. So, like, really, the second half where the 49ers still, while the game was really in, they only turned the ball over one time until that last drive. It felt like it was really just more Lamar Jackson really turning it on. All right, and we'll get to that as well. But also, the last thing, we knew the 49ers get a little tight when they have to play from behind. And I think that was something that I've continued to talk about. And I've continued to say that this is a stressor of mine as it pertains to the San Francisco 49ers. And I feel like nobody, they over, it's like, no, they're fine. They're fine. Because you see them run through teams. You see them, rally out, 6 straight wins. And in those 6 straight wins, they won by double digits all those games. I'm like, yes. But when the 49ers are in tight games, they look like a different team. And we could chalk it up originally to, well, there was no Debo, there was no Trent Williams, or at least everybody else did. I try to tell y'all, like, yeah, but you know what I'm saying? And nobody wanted to hear me. So you look at those losses, you look at this loss, and there's one thing that remains the same. The 49ers get really tight when they have to play from behind. They get really tight. And we saw it against bad teams, and now we're seeing it against a good team. Where when you're behind, something changes. Something changes. I don't know exactly what that is that's changing. Is it the pressure? Is it, okay, now, Kyle, you can't just run this play action offense. Matter of fact, and we'll get to Kyle Shanahan, all right, and his offense. Matter of fact, I'll bring the banner up now, but it might be Kyle Shanahan. His teams can't play from behind, or at least the San Francisco 49ers teams. Now, there might be some context there. It might be, well, look at the quarterbacks that he's had most of the time. But then again, I look at this year, which you've gotten the best quarterback play from a 49ers quarterback. All right. So Brock Purdy has played, in my opinion, and I'm pretty sure in a lot of y'all opinions as well, we have seen the best quarterback play with Brock. And even then, struggling to play from behind. Now, we can continue to chalk up the Vikings game to a concussion. But the team did not play well from behind late against the Browns. Now, we're a field goal away from that being a different narrative. But at the end of the day, it's not just about Brock. It's about the team. And in that moment, your field goal kicker, the only time he's had that kind of opportunity, he missed. He got tight. Like, your team was tight. All right. So you lost that game. Then you got tight against the Vikings. You had chances late in that game, in that Vikings game. Multiple chances. Remember, 49ers turned the ball over back to back. I know. You're going to tell me Brock Purdy was concussed. I get you. But he was out there. All right. So you had multiple opportunities late in that game, and you were tight. Back-to-back turnovers. So then you go to the next week. Again, you had opportunities late. I understand we're going to look at the final score. We're going to look at all that against the Bengals. If y'all remember and go back and watch the game, the 49ers had opportunities late to come back. It was a one-score game. They had opportunities. They turned it over like 3 times in the second half. They get really tight. Now, how much of this is with Kyle Shanahan and his play calling? I just saw a tweet from my guy, Quincy Avery. All right, let me go to my bookmarks right now. And he kind of made a point. I don't know to what extent, but I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny, kind of. Shouldn't be that funny, but Quincy Avery right here. He says that play action pass game don't be play actioning the way y'all thought it was play actioning from behind. Do it. So essentially, what Quincy is saying right here is the 49ers offense is predicated around the play action pass. And if the 49ers can't play action pass, do they become a shell of themselves? I have always talked about how I felt like the 49ers don't have a good drop back passing game. And it's not just me. Most guys that you watch and they're breaking down film, whether it's JT O'Sullivan, my guy Greg Pinelli has talked about this a lot as well. I've heard a lot of these guys that watch the film talk about the 49ers don't have a great drop back passing game. So if you don't have a great drop back passing game and you solely rely on the play action, but then you get in a situation where you can't rely on the play action, you're in trouble. You are in trouble. So that part, I believe, is on Shanahan for everything having to be solely about his scheme. Like everything is about Kyle's scheme. And when it works, it works. And you see the 49ers and they kick ass. But when it starts to get a little weird, and now all of a sudden you need this guy to be a great drop back passer, that is where the 49ers struggle. Now, early in this game, and now we're going to start to get into kind of MVP talk. All right. And Sip 2 Tally, I will bring you on. I got a few different things we got to get to first. And then I want to hear your thoughts on the game and how it played out. All right. But let's look at my notes here. All right. Kyle Shanahan can't play from behind, no drop back passing game. Whose fault is that there is no drop back passing game? I see a lot of people, they've been telling me, and we'll bring this up. A lot of people have been telling me that Brock Purdy is the NFL MVP. A lot of people have been telling me that the way he's playing, super high level, etc. And I talked to my guy Chris. Chris can attest to this. And I was like, Chris, first of all, because I'm probably going to cut this up as a segment. Whatever you hear me say right now, this is not me talking bad about Brock Purdy. I understand people have a tough time differentiating the two when somebody is being like either critical or harsh because they don't like a person, or just giving somewhat, I don't even want to say constructive criticism, but just their thoughts, and not in a bad way, but just a normal conversation I would have someone. But when I watch Brock Purdy's games, and I've told Chris this, I never felt like I was watching an NFL MVP. And a lot of times, I didn't even realize that Brock had as great of a game as he had until I look at the stats. And I look at the stats, I'm like, damn, like Brock was balling. But I don't get that vibe like when I'm watching. Like, I know he's playing well. I know he's playing good. But it hasn't looked like, look at this MVP. Like, look what he's doing. It just looks like somebody that's playing very well, which is not bad. Like, to me, that's not bad. And I think when you have somebody like Cam Newton come out and say, Brock isn't a game changer, he's a game manager. I think he can be an elite game manager. And what does elite game manager look like? A lot of what you've seen from him. And people take that as like this bad thing. It's not bad when your team is still the number one seed in the NFC. The 49ers are still number one seed in the NFC. All right. 49ers are the number one seed. But he is playing very well. I have not watched him and said, this is MVP. Now, numbers, team, all of that tells me, Brock Purdy, MVP. But how I view, like, just watching him, out of all the MVPs I've watched, I didn't watch him and get that same feeling that I got from watching Aaron Rodgers in his MVP year, Tom Brady in his MVP years, Adrian Peterson in his MVP year, Lamar Jackson in his MVP year, Patrick Mahomes in his MVP year. Like, just watching them, what it feels like when you're watching an MVP. I never got that same feeling from Brock. Now, I know people are going to come in my comments. They're going to say I'm hating or I'm bad-mouthing Brock. Like, I am not. He is doing a terrific job. He is playing very well. He is running this offense. He is super efficient. One of the most efficient I've seen. But I just, while watching him, didn't think MVP. But he had an opportunity tonight. when things aren't going very well. All right, things aren't going very well. You throw multiple interceptions. You have an opportunity to show I can overcome this. Yes, I'm turning the ball over where it's good on good. It's not always going to be perfect. I'm not always, in games where 4 touchdown passes, 0 interceptions. He's had those games, plenty of those games. Everything's great. Everything's awesome. Cool. It's not always going to be like that. So when it is a little more, you got to fight through a little bit more adversity. What then? How do you play? And in those moments from Brock so far throughout this year, I have felt like over and over and over he gets tight in the moments that we've needed him to come through the most. Now again, I can continue to go to Cleveland. You missed a field goal. Vikings concussed. Bengals maybe still concussed. Whatever. But I know there's one thing that was consistent with those games, and then what I saw in this game. When the 49ers need you to be the MVP most, you turn the ball over. Now it gets a little tight. Now, the interceptions made things look crazy. I just didn't think he played super well overall, whatever. But there's one thing that I continue to see circling around social media. Only one of those interceptions was on Brock Purdy. The other 3 were fluky. We can say that, and we'll break down these interceptions. We can say that the interceptions were maybe fluky, all right? But to me, when you are behind, this is what you've done as a 49er quarterback. Like that, at least that's what I've seen. And I haven't seen him behind much. So you can also say, well, maybe he's not behind because he always plays well. Or maybe you can say, well, he's never really behind because he's an elite game manager, which is not bad. But now when you need him to go above and beyond, what does it look like when it's tight? And so far in those moments, it has been turnover Brock. In those tight moments. That's all I've seen so far. Now, again, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. We've watched now, 15 games this year or whatever 49ers have played. When things are good, Brock is awesome and you have no issues and he's facilitating and he's hitting those second level throws and everything is great. When we've seen the games tight, it has looked different. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. So this isn't even about, and I've said this before, it's not about him having a bad game. I don't care about the 4 interceptions or the 3 or whatever. I don't care about the 2 interceptions against Minnesota. I don't care that Brock has a bad game. What I would like to see is Brock have a bad game and the 49ers win still. Like, go out like, okay, Brock's not having bad, but I need you to be better. Okay, you weren't better. Okay, come through late and just boom, 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 throw us to a touchdown. You know what I'm saying? Throw a couple touchdowns and overcome that. That's all I feel like I'm not asking for a lot. I'm just asking for that from a guy who we consider an MVP. So like Jay Boogie says here, Montana had a lot of games like Brock had last night until late in the third quarter. Tom Brady would wake up in the third quarter and take the heart out of a team. That's all I'm asking. And so far, he has shown an inability to do that. Now, does he play well 90% of the time? He does. So this is not me overreacting to this game. But let's talk about the other parts of this, which is the interceptions and how they happen. So let's start with the first interception from Brock Purdy. All right. The first one. He threw it late to Deebo Samuel. Late. I say late. I don't know. Well, I don't think he threw late because he just was late getting to the read. I think he threw what we call late or, because of the outcome, because the ball got picked off. But what it looked like to me is, and now we can talk about, is this Brock Purdy or is it Kyle Shanahan? There was no route vertically to hold the backside safety. If you look at the touchdown pass that Sam Darnold threw late in the game where it was like a post route or whatever, boom, he threw a touchdown pass. Look at the route that held the backside to high safety. It was a corner route. So that corner route is going to pull that backside to high safety out of there. And in turn, boom, you got the middle of the field because the receiver crossed the safety's face. Touchdown pass. Good job, Sam Darnold. All right. on Brock's first interception, there was no corner route or anything to take that backside safety away. Matter of fact, you had shallow routes that ultimately freed up the backside safety. You had 2 shallow routes within 8 yards or whatever, right? Nothing that was deep enough to pull that backside safety. So, okay, you got 2 short routes. Now I'm here and I get to rob now. Now I get to play free. Get his eyes to the quarterback, boom, make a play, interception. Is it Kyle Shanahan's fault for calling up a play that did not pull the backside safety? Or is it Brock's fault for not seeing the backside safety in his read? Who knows? But ultimately, to me, it's a bad decision to throw that ball. Interception. All right, let's talk about the next ones. Through an interception, I want to say the next one was an RPO. All right. Now, kind of looked like a screen. It was an RPO, fake run. You throw, ball gets bad in the air, interception. And you can say it's extremely lucky or fluky. Those are the words that I'm seeing all the way around, like from most people, most fans. It's fluky. You made the decision to throw it, and there's a DB jumping right there. Like there's the number 21. He was right there, and he jumped up and batted the ball in the air, and ultimately gets intercepted. How is that fluky when he's coming off the edge and you're throwing right into him? Like right there, he's right there, and you throw it. Now, I remember early in the year, in the preseason, and this is not a Trey Lance should be a 49ers quarterback or anything like that. Trey Lance is where he needs to be, somewhere else. All right, Brock Purdy has been awesome for the most part. But people killed Trey Lance. He threw an interception on the screen in the preseason. They killed him for that. Oh, how you do that? Blah, blah, blah. Guy right there. You got to pump fake and go around him. Or you got to put more air on it, whatever, right? But I thought, hey, man, these guys made a terrific play. Batted the ball in the air. Another guy made a diving interception before the ball hit the ground. Nobody gave him a break. They said that was bad Trey Lance. So I'm not going to give Brock a break on this. All right. I watched it. You had the guy come off the edge. It was an RPO. Maybe you read it wrong. Maybe you should have handed the ball off. You didn't. You threw it into a DB coming off of the edge. He jumped up. He batted the ball in the air. Interception. Brock, that's on you. All right, that's on you. Third interception. All right. You trying to make things happen? Cool. All right. But one thing that Brock does a lot, and it's cool when it works out. And when it doesn't work out, you get results like this. He's working to make play. And I've seen him do this several times. And every time I'm like, you're not supposed to do that, but he got away with it, but you're not supposed to do that. You cannot roll out. You're not supposed to. They don't teach you this. Roll to your right, throw across your body to a pass catcher. That's just, they tell you don't do that. All right. So he's rolling out. He's throwing across his body. I watched him throw to Deebo Samuel before. Boom, Deebo Samuel catches it. And it's like, I wipe my sweat because I know you're not supposed to do that. Bad things typically happen. And he's gotten away with it several times. Well, he tries to do it in this game. The coverage is tighter. It kind of ricochets off of George Kittle, even though, I mean, and people are going to focus on, well, it hit George Kittle. It was terrific defense. Marlon Humphrey was right there. Like he was on Kittle like white on rice. All right. And I don't know if you guys have ever tried to like catch a pass with a DB all over you. You know, your hand might get up kind of later than you expect, but it's not easy. Okay. It's not easy. The ball, you know, you got great defense there, guys there, ricochets off Kittle, goes in the air, and it gets intercepted. Great play by Kyle Hamilton because he got like pancake mushed, raped, or excuse me, I don't want to say that word, harassed, and then got up, still made the play on the interception. But everybody's going to talk about how the ball got bad in the air, and not that you're not supposed to do that. You are not supposed to. You're not supposed to roll out and throw the ball across your body because bad things happen when you do that, and the bad thing happened. So that's 3 interceptions where, again, everybody said, oh, only one was on him. Like, no, the RPO throw with the guy come off the edge and you throwing down there into his chest, trying to get over, and he bats in the air and picks off, that's on you. Rolling out to the right and throwing across your body, that's on you. You're not supposed to do it. The 3 picks on you. And then the last one. All right, now, that his arm got hit. But ultimately, all I'm seeing is when we've been in these situations with Brock, where the games are really tight, I kind of need you to be the guy. You have shown, I'm not there yet. Now, I think I pulled up a comment where it talked about Joe Montana, it talked about Tom Brady. You know, This is still Brock's first full season of starting. So down the line, these things may not be an issue. Down the line, he still may, grow into being that quarterback. He's very youthful in his experience. Throwing across his body hadn't bit him in the ass until it did. Maybe he says, you know what, now I need to be a little bit more cautious of doing that, right? But we'll find out. We'll find out. I just let's be fair and even with our analysis. It's and not act like everything is always great with Brock. If Brock does something that is like, okay, we need to hold him a little accountable, that's fine. I know what my comments are going to look like on this video, on this clip when I cut this out. Oh, Brock, it's just okay. It's not okay. Show me that you can overcome these things and pull out a game when the 49ers need you most. Because you're going to need it. I would give him a pass if this team wasn't like Super Bowl bust, because it is. You're still the number one seed. Oh, after all this, you're the number one seed. And you don't see these moments pop up often. But y'all know my thing, and I've said this a lot. We don't see it pop up often, and everything can be great and awesome. But at some point it will. And so far, every time that this moment has popped up, we have failed. We have failed. The 49ers have failed. Every time. Every time the 49ers have been in this situation this season, you have failed. So if you're telling me that that's not something, you think it's just a one-off and, oh, well, the Ravens are just good, whatever. No. Brock, in this moment, we need you to be a little bit better and not turn the ball over. And that's it on that. Now, the last thing I will say about this is when the 49ers get in these situations, the fans, because I'm looking at the chat, I'm looking at Twitter, I'm looking at all that. The fans are telling me that Christian McCaffrey is really the 49ers MVP. That's what you guys are telling me every single time. Because when I'm on social media and you're getting these turnovers and you're having these things, the one thing I keep seeing is, why is Kyle Shanahan throwing the ball? Why isn't he running it? Why isn't he giving it to Christian McCaffrey? Why isn't he continuing to go to CMC? Why is he throwing the ball? I'm sorry. But who's the MVP of this team? If you feel like you gotta run the ball, you gotta hand the ball off to CMC for your team to have success offensively, then your quarterback, and I said this before, I said it, what game was it? Oh, the Philadelphia Eagles game. Early on, 49ers came out there throwing the ball, whatever. But don't throw the ball. Why is he doing? Kyle Shanahan, these are stupid play calls. Give the ball to CMC. You keep telling me that CMC is your MVP. That's what you're telling. That's what I hear. Every time. Every time Kyle comes out, he's throwing the ball, whatever, and it's not up, handed to CMC. So that's your real MVP. And also, Brock Purdy is not who you think he is. Because if Brock was who you think he is, you would not have as much of an issue. I'm telling you, I don't know if you guys are on social media when these things are happening and kind of what I'm seeing. And I pay attention to it because then, I got to talk about Locked On and things like that. And I don't go like this long or in depth on it. But when these things have happened, it's been very consistent every time. You guys have told me that everything goes through CMC. He's the guy. Everything needs to go through CMC. He's the guy. That's what I hear. And I'm not saying that's bad. It is great to have all these different guys at your disposal offensively. George Kittle had a terrific game. Brandon Ayuk, he started killing. Debo, not as great, 4 catches on 12 targets. That's not the efficiency that you ideally want to see. CMC ran for over 100 yards. Like that, it is terrific that you have all these guys. But also, in that same breath, like CMC is the one that makes everything go. And I've talked about it. I think I talked about heading into this last week, where I said, when teams are game planning against the 49ers, like the game plan, it starts with CMC. Teams game planning for Baltimore Ravens, like it starts with Lamar Jackson. And when you start, and again, I see comments in the chat. It's like you're not hearing me. Clearly, you're not hearing what I'm saying. It's not about one bad game. That's not what this is about. And if anybody else is misunderstanding, let me know if maybe I'm not articulating myself well enough. It's not about one bad game from Brock Purdy. I continue to say I don't care about a bad game. Everybody thinks I care about a bad game. I don't care about a bad game. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I've been talking about this entire time. It is the inability in a tight game to win. Like we've seen that 49ers have blown everybody out. They just had a 6-game winning streak where every game they won was by double digits. I have continued to say that that's great, but more than likely you're going to play a game, especially on the road to the Super Bowl, where it is tight. And in all of the tight games this year, I have seen the 49ers lose. So it's not about one bad game from Brock. It's about Brock having the ability in these bad games to win. And it's not all on him, because really what we're saying is it might be on Kyle for putting the ball in the hands of the quarterback and when he should be giving it to CMC. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So it's not about one bad game for Brock. I don't care about the bad game. I promise you. Croc, did Brock do his job versus Cleveland in the final minutes? I would say yes. Got a little help. There was a penalty and stuff like that. Edited the first down, and but yes, he did good. And I thought that he did terrific. But again, why were the 49ers in that situation? And then you lost. Like, so you can, what do they call it? When you look for like some moral victory. You can have a moral victory, Khalil. You can have a moral victory, and with the thought of, well, Brock played like ass for that game, but then at the end he made a throw. It was very Jimmy Garoppolo against the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs in the snow. Remember that game? I thought Jimmy played like ass. But then he made 2 throws late in the game that put the 49ers in field goal range. And instead of, Robbie Gould kicking the game winner, this time it was Jake Moody who hadn't been in that situation. All right. So, but if you want the moral victory of, well, Brock, yeah, you didn't win. And you probably didn't win because of how you played early in that game. Play like ass. Even on the last drive, he threw a ball in the last drive, threw a pass, and it hit a DB in the chest. Hit him in the chest right here. Hit him in the chest. DB dropped it. Now, it didn't hurt them. They continued to go down. Boom, he threw some more pass. Boom, they got a penalty at some point, and you kick it and you miss. All right, so did he do his job? I would say, no, you lost. So, yeah, no. Actually, that's my answer. No, you lost the game. I'm not saying Brock lost the game, but you lost the game. Nicholas Purr says, credit to the Ravens. They were the better team today. And pass happy Shanny happened again. 0-38 when trailing by 8 or more in the third. I think it's like heading into the fourth quarter. We are a front-running team. Our offensive line isn't built for that. I think I can agree with that. And that's tough, right? Tough pill to swallow. The offensive line, and maybe that's why the 49ers don't have a great drop back passing game. It could be the O-line. But you know what's crazy? Here's the crazy thing. Now, again, we saw the 49ers that when you lose your tackles, you lost Trent Williams, you lost Jalen Moore, you start moving guys around, like they start getting cooked. All right, 100%. But if you ask other teams that watch the 49ers, nobody says the 49ers have a bad offensive line. Nobody. Now, maybe it could be because they do a great job of staying so balanced with the run, setting up the run, the pass, and I put the Quincy Avery tweet up. Maybe that's the case. But most people that I know, my buddies and stuff like that, people that watch 49ers games, some people I see tweet, Nobody has an issue with the 49ers offensive line except for 49er fans. And I think the reason for that is because most offensive lines around the league just aren't good. There are very few offensive lines, and I bet the difference between a bad O-line in the middle of the pack O-line, the difference is probably very small, probably a lot smaller than what most people think. Maybe like one QB hit more per game or something like that, or maybe two hurries more per game, maybe. Like that's the difference we're talking about, if I had to guess, but that's just me guessing. But everybody acts like, or 49 fans act like, oh, it's just the most terrible offensive line. But everybody else that I talk to, they're like, man, you guys are offensive line. Oh, offensive line. Everybody gives it credit. Like, everybody talks highly about the 49 offensive line. Again, now that could be because of the scheme, right? Maybe just the play action scheme kind of offsets not having a great offensive line, the timing and rhythm. Brock Purdy, I think he does a terrific job of offsetting not having a great offensive line. Maybe that's it. But everybody, all my homies and stuff, when we watching the game, they all compliment 49ers offensive line. Is it the offensive line or is it Trent? I don't know. But I know all my buddies, they compliment 49ers offensive line. All of them. I hate talking like this about this team. Again, the reason why when we're talking about this team right now, it might come off as if I'm like frustrated. Man, I know who the 49ers are. 49ers are best team in the NFC. I still believe 49ers should strongly be the favorites. They should be the favorites to win the Super Bowl. I don't know about strong, but they should be the favorites to win the Super Bowl. Because they're cooking. And people in trouble. But the one thing that continues to worry me, what does it look like when they have to play from behind? And that is just going to happen. Like we just saw it. And each time we've seen it this year, they have lost. And I'm talking about like second half, you're down in the second half. Because that's what, how many games have the 49ers, I'd say how many minutes? How many minutes in 49ers wins this year? The 49ers have 11 wins. 49ers have 11 wins. In those 11 wins, how many minutes in those 11 wins were they trailing in the second half? At any point in the second half, how many minutes were the 49ers trailing in those 11 wins? I don't even know if we can, but maybe somebody can, while I'm talking on here, somebody can look and see how many times were they trailing in the second half? Were they trailing in Seattle one game, maybe? Y'all tell me. Y'all let me know. But that's just interesting. All right, let me see if I get my guy Sip to Tally on here. He is a Baltimore Ravens guy. He came on last week, and it was cool seeing getting his perspective on the game. And a lot of people said, "Oh no, he's too up on their team, and the 49ers are gonna dog them." And Brock Purdy, he's delusional if he thinks Lamar should be MVP over Purdy. I saw the comments in the chat. Kind of disrespecting my guy a little bit. All right, so I sent the link to Coach Evans. Sip to Tally. See if he comes in. Baltimore Ravens podcast host, fan. All right, so the link is sent to you on Twitter. How y'all feel, man? I haven't changed my tune on this team. I still feel like the 49ers are the strongest team in the NFC. They're going to go next week. Who the 49ers play? 49ers play the Washington Commanders. I strongly feel like 49ers going to go and kick Commanders' ass, and then you're going to be 12-4. And then you play the LA Rams. I think that LA Rams game is going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a good game. But you got to go. You got to win that game. And then you have a first-round bye, and everybody's happy and singing Kumbaya. You're going to need that first-round bye because you need to limit the opportunity of teams being able to have a lead on the 49ers late because they have not played well in that game. Here we go. I'm bringing on Coach Evans. Coach Evans, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I would probably be doing a lot better if I were in your shoes and coming off of a W last night. But we did say that we were going to talk about this, circle back around, good or bad, whether it favored the 49ers or favored the Ravens. Obviously, we see the game favor the Ravens, and they win to the tune of, 32-19. Really a beatdown, and I don't think the 49ers had a lead at any point in this game. I want to just start with your thoughts on the defense. We questioned certain things, wanted to see how your team would react, but to me, it felt like the defense came out and hit the 49ers in the mouth early and often, and that was a big difference in this game.
Yeah, I thought the key was to try to contain CMC, and other than two outside zone plays that he had on one of the drives, they did a decent job. I know he had over 100 yards, but it was to me, it felt like a quiet 100 yards because he had the two big runs in the same drive, but everything else was like 2 yards, 3 yards, 2 yards, 3 yards. And so I think that took away that play action stuff that we talked about.
Right.
So the linebackers didn't have to bite as much in the run, and that kind of closed some of them windows, that middle of the field type stuff, especially because you were getting it early in the game with Kittle. Kittle was killing that area that we talked about, that behind the linebacker stuff where you had the linebackers had to adjust to the run, step up, take the read steps, and Kittle was getting in behind them like basically wide open. But I think overall the defense, they won the battle with the other four linemen. That's what I saw. Like the Ravens defense, they can't do number Trent, but they won the battle with the other four guys, and that helped lead the team to what happened defensively.
I had got a lot of comments from on my YouTube channel, people saying that it was clear you never watched Brock Purdy, and they're like, oh, he clearly he's not watching the games. He's just kind of going off of what the narrative is from other media people and whatnot. I'm pretty sure last night you watched the game from start to finish. What were your thoughts on Brock Purdy?
Twofold. I do watch the game. I rarely watch I watch all 22 from everybody. So I
You have
watch the
another
game.
you have another show on YouTube where you do more like
Yeah.
around the league,
Yeah, I
right?
got a channel that's dedicated to the other 31 teams. So
Yeah.
I do watch the all 22. But the second part of that, and I heard you talking, like some people were saying that some of the things weren't Brock's fault and some were, but I think it's ultimately his because he pulls the trigger. Despite, I know Kyle could maybe put him in bad situations, and you can always throw the ball away or, maybe use your legs and get out and try to make something happen. But when you're the quarterback, you got to take the good with the bad. That's unfortunately part of the position. Like you're gonna get a lot of the credit that's probably not yours when you lose, and then you probably get a lot of the credit that may not be all yours when you win. It just comes with the position, and especially with him being, and we talked about it being a favorite for MVP, so it was a lot more light on him. And I just think we just played a better game. Somebody said, like, would this happen if we played 100 times? No, indeed. No, indeed. I think you had two heavyweights going blow for blow, and we got the better end of the stick because of the turnovers. You had him in turnovers. You can't win.
Right. We talked a whole lot about Lamar Jackson and kind of how much he meant to Baltimore, and obviously the defense helped with some of the takeaways yesterday. But it felt almost like kind of a slow start to the game for Lamar, and then it almost like towards the tail end of the second quarter, it was like something just clicked, and from
Mhm.
then on, he kind of was just a problem for the 49ers for the rest of the game. Just what did you think about how Lamar was playing? And did you think that was like him putting his foot down, like, all right, we were talking about league MVP, like
Mhm.
this is what it looks like, and this is how you kind of carry your offense?
I think a lot of his big plays came on broken plays, which is tough to defend because you can cover whatever the concepts are. You can defend whatever route combination there are, but then once he gets outside the pocket, them boys just got good at scramble drill. They kind of know how to get in soft spots, and he made some crazy plays. And it's when you got to play 11-on-11 football, it's tough because nobody can really be right. And if one person is wrong, the quarterbacks will make a big play. And it's tough to defend a guy like that. It's tough.
It was extremely difficult for the 49ers. I just felt like, ah, man, like he's in his zone. And excuse me, and when the quarterback opposite you, and this is the biggest thing, right? Like this was the thing when the 49ers had Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. Like it doesn't matter. You'll always have to kind of deal with these type of things. But when one quarterback catches fire and all of a sudden, like, your defense is going to struggle to get some stops. Uh, how much of it, how difficult is it, do you think, on the other side, right? Like Brock, do you think at that time you maybe start to press because now you see Lamar Jackson starting to cook and it's like, all right, I need to kind of go above and beyond. Do you think that might have contributed to some of the, or at least one or two of the interceptions that Brock threw?
Definitely, definitely. Because I mean, despite what these guys say, and they don't really listen to the media and the narratives and stuff like that, they got to feel that pressure from somewhere. And everybody knows that this was not only the two best teams in the NFL, you had probably had the two front runners for the MVP, and pretty much whoever plays the best in this game and gets a win would probably be the favorite, and which ended up happening. So I think, yeah, he was pressing to one, keep his team in the game mostly, but two, to kind of maybe stay in that talk. Now, he may not care. He seems like the kid that he's just playing football. Now, I will say that about him. He seems like a kid that ain't really stressing about this MVP thing. He just want to play football. He seems like that from the outside looking in. But as much national attention that this got, you got to feel that pressure from somewhere, and because he human, and he young. This is, like you said earlier, this is his first full year starting.
Yeah, it's his first full year. So here's the thing. I think, and you have people that they want to excuse the play and whatnot. But in my opinion, when you're on a team like the 49ers, this was comes with the territory. Like, this is why, well, there's two reasons why they got rid of Trey Lance, but you got rid of Trey Lance for two reasons. One, because Brock Purdy was playing so well.
Mm-hmm.
But two, because, bro, we can't even, this is, team is ready to go right now. And when you have a team like this, they don't want to have to, live with the ups and downs of that. And even though you're still going to get it to some extent, Brock has shown you that, hey, more times than not, I can play very well. And I think we see that with this team being 11-4 right now. So Brock has done a terrific job. But what also comes with that is, when you have a game like this, people are going to talk about it, and it might be more scrutinized. So it's not even so much about having one bad game and the official BNA music says, people are excusing Brock Purdy's play. Joe Montana had bad games and think Brock Purdy's criticism is unfair. Meanwhile, Lamar has been disrespected since day one, and Florida put a battery in his back. Do you feel like Lamar has been disrespected? And if so, do you think he's kind of answered the call with a big win like he did on primetime television last night?
I think he was disrespected, and I heard you say like the Niners fan base disrespected him. I don't think the Niner fan base or the Niners YouTube community or whatever put like the disrespect, because I think it was, if you saw the game, you saw a lot of respect being shown both ways, because picking people up, tapping them on the head. You normally, you don't see that in a lot of football games. So I think the respect was there. I think the disrespect came from like the national media. I don't think it was nor so like you or the 49er fan base, or whoever our community, the YouTube community is. I think it was mainly Florio, because it was Florio got so out of character. Florio, I didn't know the dude even curse. And he went on this, he dropped about 4 or 5 curse words talking about how it was going to be. And Lamar Roy don't really say much about people talking about him, but he called his name multiple times after the game. And so I don't think none of the disrespect came from the San Francisco community. I think it came from national media, and they felt disrespected in that way.
Gotcha. All right. Any last notes on the game before I get you out of here?
I just think y'all gonna be all right, man. And I think it's gonna happen again if everywhere.
Uh, Likely, hopefully we see each other in the
Mm-hmm.
Super Bowl, and I think that'll be a big game, because I still believe that when it comes down to it, these are the two best teams in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to see a rematch of that 2012 Super Bowl, which I still have not watched back. I watched it in the moment. I have not watched that game since. It's been on TV. It was on NFL Network like all week. They kept showing 49ers versus Ravens Super Bowl, and like I refused to watch it.
I
So,
was outside of the game. We set up shop maybe a block away, tailgating and kind of partying and whatnot. So I was outside of the game watching it. So I was in New Orleans, but not at the game.
and I actually was in New Orleans for a couple of days that week. I had an NFL workout with the New Orleans Saints.
Okay.
So yeah, they had me flying in that the week of the game. I changed and everything, got dressed for the tryout or the workout in the 49ers locker room in New
Mm-hmm.
Orleans while they were out there.
You did it in the dome, or you did it in Metairie?
I did it at their training
Right.
facility.
Yeah, so that's right outside New Orleans. I got you.
Yeah. So and it's the way they set these NFL workouts up. They fly you in, like they book the flight and everything. You come, you know, they have somebody pick you up in this SUV, take you to the facility. They poke and pry at you, measure you. How long are your arms? How much do you weigh? Do this thing to test your body fat. They do all these things. Then they get you on the field. You got to warm up. Now it's on you.
Mm-hmm.
And got a good warm up in and did work. Did not run a great 40 time, which was why they didn't sign me that day. They invited me back for rookie minicamp, but I ultimately I ended up signing with the New York Jets. So
Okay.
that's kind of how that whole thing happened. But I was there that week, which was I got pictures. I'm a fan. That's what people are like. Oh, fan of football, fan of 49ers. So I'm in the locker. Oh, Michael Crabtree, Deshaun Goats, and like let me take some pictures of their jerseys and their locker room. Then after my workout, they're like, all right, go ahead, get lunch, and then we'll have somebody drive you to the airport. But after the workout, I sat down, ate lunch, and while I was eating lunch in their cafeteria, all the 49er players were in there, Kaepernick, Harbaugh, all those guys. So that was a pretty cool little memory. But so I was in New Orleans for a short period of time during that while you were out there as well. But
Gotcha.
all right, Coach Evans, hopefully Super Bowl week we get to do this again.
Right. Or even playoff time. It didn't necessarily got to be Super Bowl week. You just
All
talk
right,
ball.
yes, sir. All right,
I
man. You have a good
appreciate
one.
you, man. You too.
All right, shout out to Coach Evans in there. We got Eric with a K in the chat. And Eric says, here's something that's not being talked about. Brock was cleared to return, but Kyle stuck with Darnold. Was Brock benched because of the 4 picks? No. When I was watching, at least what I thought was, you don't got your tackles. Do you want to expose Brock Purdy to continuing getting hit? You know, you're missing both your starting tackles. You got to move Spencer Burford to right tackle. I even tweeted like, was Spencer Burford? Because I must have not seen exactly what happened. At some point, I had to go outside. I got baby mama. You know what I'm saying? So she's bringing my daughter to me. So I stepped outside for a few minutes, talked to her. And I don't know if during that time injuries happened or whatever, but I didn't see Trent Williams leave the game, and I didn't see Moore leave the game. And the next thing I know, it's Spencer Burford at right tackle and McKivitz at left tackle. So I don't know if Kyle's like, you know what, you're getting hit. This is not an ideal situation to put my starting quarterback in. I don't want to lose you for the rest of the season off some crazy stuff. So we'll just sit you down. We're down 21. They get to pin their ears back and really get after the quarterback. Not a great situation to put you in. We'll just throw Sam Darnold out there. So that's what it felt like to me. It wasn't even so much about benching Brock, but really more so about saving Brock. And hey, we're down. Don't worry about it. Now, Sam Darnold, and I was happy to see this, he was heavily criticized last week. And I thought it was pretty wild the way people were really jumping on Sam Darnold for 2 plays. And it's like 2 plays. Oh man, like I didn't feel. I'm so glad he doesn't have to play quarterback. And I'm like, wait a minute, because I watched him in training camp. I watched him in the preseason. I thought that Sam Darnold had a good grasp of the offense. I thought in practice he made throws time and time again that were like staples of the 49ers offense, and that he obviously has all the ability and talent to be able to run his offense. I thought he looked solid in training camp, and watching the practice, the throws that he was making, etc. I think at some point he started to get a little gun shy, but I thought he could make all the throws and everything. And I did not think that the 2 plays in the Cardinals game was any indication of how he would play over an entire game, especially if he had a chance to really kind of get going and if you kind of game plan for him. And I was happy to see Sam Darnold get in there. Now he had an extended period of time. Now he had to throw the ball. And I thought he threw the ball well. Missed an out over there. Obviously on 4th and goal from the 20, he threw an interception. Maybe should have looked guys off and just came to Brandon Ayuk and gave Brandon Ayuk opportunity. Would have liked to see that. But ultimately, I thought Sam Darnold came in and just gave me the confidence, at least, that hey, this is a guy that he can play. So good job by him. Hopefully, people are a little bit more settled with the fact, hey, if Brock goes down, knock on wood. You don't want Brock to go down, but Sam Darnold is somebody that can come into play, because people ripped him after just two plays last week, and I thought that was a little odd. That was a little odd. Looking at the chat right now, Kevin says, yep, Kyle was waving the white flag. got crushed and blown out. And the crazy thing is, even with all that, the 49ers were on the 1 yard line before the 2 minute warning with 3 timeouts remaining with an opportunity to cut that lead to one score. That was pretty wild. And obviously it didn't work out that way. I was talking to my brother. He's like, why don't you just run with CMC? And I'm like, well, they're trying to score before the 2 minutes so they can kind of preserve that extra time, or essentially that timeout that's kind of built in. And so that's why they threw the ball. And then they ran the ball. And once they ran the ball and they went down to a 2 minute warning, I'm like, all right, now you kind of have to throw the ball. And Sam Darnold got sacked. And initially, I did not see anything open. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe we look at the all 22 and we can see something else is there. I don't think it helped that he was playing with 2 backup tackles. I don't think it helped, but yeah. Rod J says Darnold was throwing some tight spirals. Was the Bureau's Melgo? One of them said those the best ball they've seen since Steve Young. So I ain't putting that out there, but Sam Darnold was number 3 overall pick. Like, he is talented. Like, we know that. So he can spin it. Sam Darnold can spin it. The biggest thing is, he turned the ball over a lot throughout his career. I want to say he has like more turnovers than starts. So that's the part there where it's not about him throwing tight spirals. It's about his ability to execute a game. Now, if Sam Darnold came into the 49ers situation where, you have, Kittle and CMC and Ayuk and Debo and Trent Williams protect you, would he have been better than whatever he was with the New York Jets? Would he have created the same bad habits? Maybe not, but we'll see. Crocker here, how to look at it very simply. NFC is like the Pac-12 and AFC is like the SEC. Oh, that is disrespectful, Leroy. I'm not taking that, Leroy. And I feel like that's disrespectful. Maybe I'm in the wrong. But I know how you're talking about the Pac-12 right now. How about this? I ain't get it. I don't like that. Leroy. Disrespecting the NFC like that, man. Disrespecting the NFC. Rick Diaz says, I understand why you said that, but this should not be an MVP yet until the end of January. But everybody kept saying it, not me. All right. Robert Davis says, we know who Darnold is. You know what, man? We know who Darnold has been. If you're in a better situation, would you get better results? And Roberto. So Roberto, do you think no matter what, Sam is always going to be the quarterback of, first of all, Carolina Panthers? They're ass. We know they're ass, right? The New York Jets, they're still struggling to figure it out and get it together. Do you think that playing in those situations with not great GM, not great roster, had anything to do with the outcome of his play? Now, if you don't think that those things factored into how Sam Darnold played, then you are right. We know who he is. If you do think, Roberto, that the circumstances factored into how he played, then we don't know who Darnold is, but we do know what he has been, which is not good. Just my thoughts. Eric with a K says Lamar doesn't get rid of the ball when he's blitz. He scrambles. The problem with that is now he's extended that play and you have less defenders in coverage. And a lot of times you have to plaster to a man, and then the scramble drill is really hard. We saw that on the touchdown pass on Jason Verrett. It's like initially Verrett had really good coverage, and then he still had good coverage. And he had good coverage until he didn't have good coverage because of all the time that Lamar Jackson bought on the play. So that's tough. JM617 says, or 617 says, I originally said it was stupid to take the Ravens lightly. Now you're on watch. You know, the crazy thing is, I don't even know. I mean, again, maybe, but I think 49er fans in the comments, and again, I saw them respond to my guy, Coach Evans, under that video. There were a good amount of people that felt like uh, there were a good amount of fans in the comments that felt like we're just like 49ers just going to dog them. But the majority of people I felt like took them very serious. Official BNA Music says, unlike Gino, Darnold wrote back. Yeah. Gino said he ain't writing back, man. He ain't writing back. V.O. Walker says, play calling was definitely the issue. Having Brock Purdy throw the ball early to prove a point. I feel like Kyle has an ego that's going to eventually do us in the end originally. Mr. Walker, I have a question. When you say that Kyle has an ego and he's trying to prove a point, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by Kyle's trying to prove a point with Brock? Cena's son, he says, I think the 49ers were taking the game seriously. They were or weren't taking the game seriously. I think that they were taking it serious. I think they just got their ass whooped. Like you don't go into a game. You don't go into a game on primetime television, like on Christmas night, against another team that has the same record as you, number one team in that conference, and take it lightly. They just beat your ass. That's all that happened. That is all that happened. Oh man. So Jam 617, and we'll get out of here on this one. He says, respectfully, not correct fans this week talk more about the Rams than they did the Ravens. I think as a 49er fan, now I'll take my content creating hat off. I think it's easy to look at the next game because of how well the 49ers have played. And there's games like this that, now it's like, nah, you got to go out there. And I have been looking at the Rams, and, the only game I've really overlooked as a 49er fan was probably like the Commanders game. Baltimore and the Rams, like, I feel like those are going to be like good games. That's how it always felt to me. Gio says, EC, you don't think we should have blitzed more to get the ball out of Lamar Jackson's hands? When we blitzed, we got to him. I don't know. I'd have to go back and watch that. All right, that's going to do it for this episode, man. I appreciate everybody that tuned in. Shout out to everybody. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And Wednesday, I will have Coach Desi on in the morning. That should be a great show. And she lost. Remember, Coach Desi is a 49er fan. Her husband is a Baltimore Ravens fan. They live out there in Florida. And she gets a little excited during the games. Not sure how excited she was after the game. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Peace.